And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills.
I can't catch a break, guys.
Yeah.
Get them the fuck away from me. I can't be around those guys.
People think, oh, well, cleaning your room, that's just a cliche. It's like, yeah, really, eh? Just go ahead and try it.
If people had any idea how powerful sleep is for healing from anything, and the fact that it's free.
My mind is absolutely bulletproof, solid as a rock.
Podcast. And we are live, guys. Welcome back to another Fighting Fit podcast. So in today's episode, myself and Chris are going to delve deep into the world of disordered eating. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to kind of talk about, structure, how you should be structuring your food, what things you could possibly be doing right, and then maybe some things that you could possibly be doing wrong, and then we will give you some tools or solutions for those problems. I think that, everybody now, between the couch and the press, or the couch and the fridge, it can be very, very difficult to kind of, get a structure and a routine together, especially if you're not the most organized person, or especially if you're a little bit emotional and you kind of get into those emotions and tend to eat your feelings.
But on top of that, I think it's important to understand that everyone's normal routine, well, not everyone, some people have the same routine and some people are getting by fine, but a lot of people's routine has been just turned upside down, and they're missing family, they're missing memories, a lot of new emotions that maybe they might not have had to deal with in the past that they're having to deal with now. And in the modern world that we live in now, eating tasty food is like a really, really good way of dealing with those emotions. It really helps soothe them. It really helps you feel better. So I think disordered eating and a lot of the behaviors that lead to disordered eating are on the rise these days. And hopefully this podcast will help people manage it a little bit better, understand it, and recognize the behaviors and the patterns that are maybe causing them to gain weight a little bit, or maybe cause them to feel guilty over the food that they're eating. And hopefully they can solve it after listening to this one podcast.
Yeah, well, look, it will be new information if anything else.
All right, so let's talk about disordered eating. So first off, I want to make the clear distinction that when we talk about disordered eating, we're not talking about eating disorders. And I know that sounds like a little bit like they're the exact same thing. They are not. They're two different things. So an eating disorder would be something like anorexia or orthorexia, which is like too much restriction and too much focus on eating everything healthy and getting everything perfect. Or then there's also bulimia and all that sort of stuff as well. That they would be classified as eating disorders. But disordered eating, like 99%, most people have disordered eating. I have disordered eating sometimes. I'm sure Brandon has disordered eating. Stephen does. Loads of members do. I'm not going to call anyone out or anything like that there apart from us because we're fam. But disordered eating, it's really normal, especially in today's age. Like there's a lot of advertising and all that sort of stuff. There's like right now the world wants you to be reactive. The world wants you to react to this, react to that, and to make impulse decisions. And disordered eating can come along with that as well. So if you are, you're just like, oh, you feel like you want something, you go, oh, I'll have that. That's a little sign that you didn't plan to eat it. You just went out of your way. You don't know how many calories are in it. You're just having it. It's out of order. There's no sort of order enforcing it. So it's really normal. Most people have it, and that. It's like, it's not that bad, but it does also indicate that you're not sort of matching your physiological needs with it. So disordered eating usually leads you to eating too much. When you have disordered eating, like there's a lot of things, like you'll be preoccupied with food a lot. You'd be preoccupied with eating or not eating, or the amount of calories and stuff, or you'll go from like one extreme to the other. You won't really have a plan in place. You'll skip breakfast and you wait till you're hungry, and then when you're hungry later and you're starving, you're reactive, so you like binge on chocolate, or if you're in the shop, just to get something to actually sustain you, you might sneak a few wee bars here and there, whatever it is. Again, I know what the behaviors are because I've done loads of them myself. I'm sure you have as well. I'm sure a load of people, when I'm saying it like that, they recognize those behaviors. But I forget what my point was. It was basically disordered eating is normal. Loads of people do it. But if you want to improve your nutrition, you want to get a little bit better at eating, implementing some order into your nutrition would help a lot. The way we do that is we would like you to implement a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. So a lot of people say, oh, you don't need to eat breakfast and all that jazz as well. And the response to that is like, yeah, you actually don't need to eat breakfast, but it will leave you to be hungrier at around lunchtime. And the hungrier you get, like you can't beat ghrelin. You can beat ghrelin, but it's really hard. And if your willpower is low, you had a fight with someone, or you're stressed, ghrelin more than likely will win. And ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So if you're walking into a shop and you want to get something tasty to eat and something that's actually good for you, when ghrelin spikes, the cream eggs look awful tasty when you're standing beside the till, and they're right there in front of you for that exact reason.
I've literally noticed a 20% increase in price of my shopping when I go hungry versus full.
Really, 20%? Literally
20%. Like I could spend maybe, let's say, €90 on a shop, and then I could spend 120. So that would be nearly 20-30%.
You've got a full family to shop for as well, though.
But like I said, the difference is that I'm hungry.
Yeah,
the whole family. I don't send the whole family there hungry. It's just me.
Yeah. So it's like being hungry. Like, I think it's important to recognize, like, a lot of people will be unconscious to their emotions and how their emotions influence their thoughts and behaviors. So the way I like to think about it, this isn't fact or anything like that, but it's a good sort of analogy. Like, if you are happy, there is like a certain pool of thoughts and behaviors that you will do when you're happy. If you are angry, there's another certain pool of thoughts and behaviors that you'll do when you're angry. If you're sad, there's another one. If you're hungry, there's another one as well. And there's different thoughts and all that jazz that will go along with it. So we want to avoid being hungry as much as possible. And the way we avoid being hungry as much as possible is we have like a steady supply of meals. So we have a breakfast, we have a lunch, we have a dinner, and we have them at a consistent time every day. And we have it like it's reliable, so that we're not being like, oh, geez, I'm starving, I don't have this in the press, I don't have my lunch with me, I'll just get this in the shop real quick. Like, if you don't know what you're going to eat that day, well, then more than likely you're going to be reactive to what you're eating that day, and that will lead you to, in today's day and age, overeat. That's what it'll lead you to: overconsume calories. You'll be eating calorie dense foods that lack nutrients instead of nutrient dense foods that are low in calories.
Sorry, and you said twice now that it will lead to overeating, but disordered eating could also mean that you're undereating as well, couldn't it?
Yeah. Well, so it could as well. If you have a bad relationship with food, and you're just restricting like mad, and you're not like, if your goal is to get lean and have more energy, what might happen in your head is you might think, okay, well, I have to get lean first, and then I'll sort the energy out later. So the goal in your head is to restrict food and then you still want your treats, and you look at the treats. The treats are like 500 calories for like basically F all, and so you leave yourself. You have the treat. Oh, that was lovely, and then you're still hungry, and then you're sitting there starving with no calories left, and then you're like feeling restricted. Like, that's not a good behavior to sort of keep going with for your diet. Like, it's not very sustainable. So what will normally happen in that is that you'll either starve and suffer and be miserable and undereat, or you'll have the extra food after it and then overeat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, like, if there's a trend of overeating, like, let's say based on your BMR and activity levels, therefore, as a general trend, you'd be gaining weight. That can be disordered eating when it's not planned, obviously. And when it's not beneficial to your health. But then also, if you're losing weight, if you're just on the wrong side of that calorie deficit, because even though you're kind of engaged in that behavior, let's say that kind of leaves you on the lower side of the calorie deficit, it's still disordered eating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And again, so just the definition of disordered eating there, Chris.
So disordered eating is any type of eating that regularly doesn't match your physiological needs, whether eating too much or too little. So
the layman's breakdown of that, Chris?
We say regularly, because we're not talking about loosening your belt once a year, or a belt for a once yearly holiday meal, or occasionally skipping a meal when you're traveling. So the regularly part of that is basically like, it's okay if you deviate from ordered eating once every now and then, but if you are doing it consistently, like every single week, and you don't have a plan in place, you don't have any sort of structure, that's where it becomes a problem. But like, let's say you've been eating normally for a month, and then it's someone's birthday, and then cake shows up. It's like, if you've been eating normally like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is the birthday, it's like you can have cake on a Friday. Like, it's not going to ruin your bloody diet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, what it seems to be is, so if I was to like to give somebody, let's say, like the label, and obviously as a professional, unless I was a professional, I wouldn't be able to do that. So like if I was to give somebody that label of, you have an eating disorder, that's kind of like, that's almost like a psychological issue. Whereas this could literally just be like, okay, you've got no plan and routine whatsoever with your food.
Yeah, like so this disordered eating usually, like 99% of the time, it comes from people who don't have kitchen skills. They don't know how to plan their food. They don't know how to shop, and they're eating just because, oh, that tastes nice, and they don't know how many calories are in it. They don't know, how much water they need to be drinking a day. They don't know how many calories they should even be eating in a day. But it's like, oh, that's tasty. I'll have that for breakfast because I like that. I'll have this for lunch because I like that. I'll have this for dinner because I like that. Oh, like, a lot of people, they'll live their life. They're like, oh, my favorite dinner is chicken curry and chips, and they'll have chicken curry and chips 4 days out of 7 a week, and they're great. Like, but it's their life, and if they want to do it that way, they can. But the problem is that like they don't know what their goal is. Like if they're gaining weight, obviously that's not sustainable by doing that if the goal isn't to gain weight.
Exactly, and that brings me to my other question. And again, I think you already touched on this point, but just to hammer it home, is if you are engaging in that behavior, it's like, so it's in order to taste nice, or I enjoy it, or it's easy. It's like, so that's to that end. So what would the alternative be? Like, what is the goal?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
So what's the goal of, let's say we're talking about disordered eating now, that's the kind of behaviors, and so we eat because we like it. And so what's the goal of ordered eating?
So the goal of ordered eating is to basically just like eat for a certain goal. If the goal is maintenance, it's like if you want to just stay the same weight, well, it's like you have a range of calories that you can eat and stay at the same weight. Normally, most people do some sort of exercise. If you don't do exercise, you should be doing some form of exercise. Every person, like, we're made to move. But your nutrition should sort of fuel your training and fuel your energy, and try and make sure that you have good energy throughout the day. And what that looks like is, if you have like a 9-to-5 job, again, everyone's different. Everyone's life is pretty idiosyncratic. Like it's unique to them. But let's say there is a general trend of a 9-to-5. So you need a breakfast at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. You need a lunch at about 11 o'clock. You need a dinner when you finish work. And then you also need maybe a couple of snacks throughout the day as well, just to keep you tipping over. If, let's say, you're training, those snacks would be put in before training, so you can optimize your energy for your training sessions as well. So you're not getting hungry, you're not getting hunger pangs, you're not getting irritable because you haven't eaten anything, and you have lots of energy. And it's just like and on top of that, it's helping you perform. That's why, like, your nutrition is helping you do better throughout your day, rather than hindering you going out throughout your day. And you have to enjoy it as well. So if you don't enjoy your food, you're not going to stick to it very long. So there's no point. Like, I would say disordered eating would also be doing all that stuff, having your breakfast, having your lunch, having your dinner. And if you hate it, that would also be disordered eating. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like, it is very contextual. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want people to take home from this, is that, like, context is so important when it comes to giving nutrition advice. Because, like, you tell somebody 1,200 calories a day and they're, 6'4", you get me, like, they're going to be starving. But if you tell someone who's 5 foot nothing, you eat 1,200 calories, and they're really lazy, they don't do anything throughout their day, it's like that might be enough for them. It's very, very contextual way for everything.
And later on, kind of in the nutrition course, and the nutrition course that we done is basically like, it's the top of the pops. And what happens, so the general population, our average member, let's say, would be at what we call a level 1 client. And so sometimes, as you kind of gear up to level 2 clients, are generally people who are starting to compete in, physique competitions at, an amateur to intermediate level, and then athletes again at that amateur intermediate level. And then level 3 is, physique competitions at a pro level, and then again, athletes at a pro level. And obviously, with some, crossover between level 1, level 2, and level 3. And sometimes, as it comes into level 2 and level 3 clients, so those athletes, sometimes disorder eating is actually, it's needed for the athletic pursuit. But in general, most people should be aiming towards, this kind of ordered, structured approach, because that's what's going to leave them, as you said, more energized, more better health markers, sleeping better, more routine, more enjoyment out of your overall life.
Exactly. If you don't have a plan for your nutrition, well, then you're leaving it up to chance. And if you leave it up to chance, in today's society, there's so many primers around. There's so many triggers for basically to binge, or to go off the rails, or to eat low nutrient value foods with high calories in them. You're more than likely going to fail in your diet. So, or you're just going to gain weight and get unhealthy. But the next thing I wanted to talk about as well is that, like, if your eating behaviors cause you distress and then you try and relieve that stress with food, like, that's a very, very strong indicator that you need to do something about your nutrition. Your mood and how you act, your relationship with food. You shouldn't feel guilty about eating something. You really shouldn't. And you shouldn't feel the stress about meals or dinners or anything like that. Like, one of the things about people when they first start in the program that I see from a fair few people is like, oh my God, can I have this? Can I have, or I can't have this. I can't touch this. There's no, I can definitely not do this. Or I took away, 1 tablespoon of this here. They get very, very sort of down into the nitty gritty of it. And like, it's almost like a sin to break away from the diet. And that there, like, when it becomes compulsive, that's a strong sign that you need to start taking the chill pill a little bit and relaxing with your nutrition. Like, it's not as serious as you think it is. You don't need to become this high performance athlete. Like, the best thing to do when you first start nutritioning is to give yourself a range. Don't give yourself an exact number. If you give yourself an exact number, if you don't hit that number in your head, you failed. Whereas, like, if I was to give you a protein goal, I wouldn't give you, all right, your protein goal is 120 grams of protein. It's like, your protein goal is 105 to 130 grams of protein. Can you do that? And then once you do that, it's like, all right, now let's narrow the margin a little bit, to get it a little bit more close. But like with protein, typically more is better. Do you get me?
And with people again, I have literally done that. And so you give, I've given people a range of 100 to 150. Again, as you said, obviously the 150 being what we're after. And let's take 2 people, for example. I've given John 150. And, for the first 2 weeks, he basically smashed 150 out of the park every single day. And so we just said, all right, John, let's stick to 140 to 150. You basically beat it. You're clearly, you've got good order and good structure in your life. And then I've given other people, a range of 100 to 150, to begin with. And they, they're still hitting 150 some days, 30 other days, 20 other days, 90 other days, whatever it is. And so it basically is like those people is, it's like you really start to learn an awful lot about people when you're coaching, and people really do come in all shapes and sizes and, willpowers and discipline levels and all this kind of stuff. And, if you're somebody who really has, that lack of follow through, that lack of discipline, it's like, this is the kind of stuff that you really want to start paying attention to. It's like, it's the simple stuff. It's like, stop looking, as I said, about, the level 3 client or athlete behaviors. It's like, and really just start focusing on stuff that you said, like having a breakfast, lunch, a dinner.
Well, one of the things that I'd say about that is that some people feel like they need to have that exact detail in it, and that exact detail will cause them so much stress that they'll abandon the plan completely. And like, it's 80%, like, a lot of the time is a lot better than 100% one time. And the goal is consistency. And if you give someone a range, and it's like, if they fall within that range, and you tell them, give them a pat on the back, you did it, even if it's on the lower end of that range, which it doesn't really matter. But like, let's say the goal is 130 to 150 grams of protein, and they get 131 grams of protein. Whereas like before, the goal would have been 150, and you go, no, you did it, good job. Well, then they're going to be spiking dopamine. They're like, oh, I already did it. It's a wee win for them. And then there's a wee aha moment, and it's like, oh, I can do this. And getting a moment like that is much more important than them hitting 150 grams of protein. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things why coaching is important, because you get to navigate those sort of situations for people and make sure that they have those little aha moments, because then they'll actually do better in the program, and they'll keep up with their fat loss journey.
Yeah, this is a little bit off topic, but it's so funny though. Like, when you're dealing with people, like I suppose, like, when every member that I deal with deals with like pretty much one version of me. But when I am dealing with clients, I've got 150 clients. Let's say there's 150 versions of me as a coach, because every time I show up, I have to take it as a case by case basis. And it's very interesting, because like, someone could show up to me and I come away from that, I'm like, I was an awful hard ass there. And then other days, like, I come away and I'm, it's like a big, gentle guy, and, I'm always like, super nice and airy fairy around it, because there's some people who, like I said, they show up and before I look for greatness in somebody, I just look for that consistency. And there's some people who just struggle so much with just that consistency and that order. And there's other people who have so much consistency and so much order that you can just literally, it's like, you just keep moving the goalposts, and they just keep achieving and achieving and achieving. And you get these people down the bottom sometimes, and they're literally just running in circles. They're doing the same thing, the same pattern over and over again. And again, I really feel like this is just, something stress is like it's failing to it's looking past the simple things.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right there. The looking past the simple things is it's an arrogant thing to do, and I want to say arrogant because I want there to be a little bit of a level of disdain towards it. Like, arrogance isn't necessarily a good thing to do, and a lot of people think they're better than those little habits. Like, it's almost like they're aiming too high, they're not aiming low enough. Does that make sense? It's like they're like, oh no,
I put my hands up 100% and say, like, I remember when I first started with health and fitness, like, I remember like thinking like what I had to eat was just chicken breasts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it's not just arrogance. Sometimes it's a little bit of ignorance. It's like you literally don't know. It's like I didn't know. Like, I wasn't educated. It's like I'm not, like, I was the ultimate, lack of skills in the kitchen, lack of knowledge, lack of ability, lack of what would it be, tools, lack of tools. Like, I didn't have like loads of knives and pots and pans and or any kind of idea how to use it all. So, like, for me, I was kind of showing up to what I thought, and what I thought I needed to do was to jump from A to Z.
Yeah. And what you need to do is go through A, B, C, D, and maybe if you go through A, B, C, and D really well, you can skip E. Do you get me? And go to F. Like, and it's that simple. Like, you have to go through the basics first. And if you don't go through a lot of people want to skip the basics and they want to just be like, oh, I can do everything. And some people actually can. That's the thing that surprised me as well. Some people actually can switch all their behaviors at the drop of a dime like that. They are special, rare individuals. More than likely, if you're listening to this, more than likely you're not one of them. But if you are one of them and you're one of them, like if you're one of them, you're one of them, fair play to you. I wish I was like you.
Yeah, no, I'm not like that. I mean, I can be at times under pressure when I need be, and I suppose everybody's probably seen that side to themselves. It's like, oh, I wish I was as good at doing projects as Mary, and then the next thing, you've got 24 hours until your exam, and it's Mary mode.
Yeah.
All
right.
But for most people, they can't just do it on demand.
Yeah, it's hard. Again, people are. A lot of people think that that humans are just super rational beings and they can think through everything and logically do everything. It's like there was a cool sort of meme that I seen, and it was like, Joe, there's the rational brain that's sitting on top of this elephant, and then the elephant is just across it was like the emotional body. And it's like our job as coaches is to coach the elephant, not to coach your man sitting on top of the elephant, kind of trying to direct it. Like, the person on top thinks they have control to direct it. Do you get me? They do. And it's like they kind of have some influence, but if the elephant wants to go the other way, it's like, you're not winning. You're not winning that fight.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So
that is hilarious. That is amazing. And I suppose, like, it's so true as well, because, like, if you're thinking about walking an elephant, it's like, realistically, in that situation, you have zero control. But what you do have is you have all the conditioning of that elephant that you've done in the past, or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm. And some people are riding some wild elephants, hey?
That is that. I love that. That's a new idea. I've never heard. That is so cool.
There you go. So the next thing I was going to talk about were all the different sort of behaviors and thoughts and beliefs and Joe, stuff that people do that I would associate with let's say disordered eating. Okay. So first off, self-soothing. So self-soothing with food, that would be so one form. Then there would be distracting yourself from unpleasant sensations or emotions. That would be another one. Also, people can signal distress as well. They can avoid experiences or challenges by just going in and eating some ice cream. They would use it as a coping mechanism or as a solution to another problem. Or it can, like, food can act kind of like a drug or an addiction as well. And so, like, if you find that you're compulsively eating because, it's just what you do in the evening. Every time you go, like, it's like, oh, I just go in, I sit down in the couch, I get my pack of crisps and I crack my can of beer. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if that's it, and then it's like, if you feel like you can't stop that because, you'd be missing out on life, it's like you need to look at that a little bit more closely. And there's a reason why you're doing that. Why, like, and it might be stress. It might be because you're not living up to your expectations or whatever it is. But it's like you need to look at why you're doing that and why you can't stop doing it to get to where you want to go. Does that make sense?
And if I was to say to you, like, let's dig deeper on that. Let's say that like you're after, you're really after resonating with somebody, and that's them. It's like, do you have any advice, or know of any resources, or what's your advice for somebody who, like I said, is in that compulsive state where like and genuinely.
Okay, yeah. So first off, okay, a food feelings journal. Now I know that sounds very like airy fairy and la di da, okay, but the people who are doing this, more than likely they're unconscious of why. And when I say unconscious, I mean they're not aware. They don't know why they're actually doing it. They don't know why they like it. They don't know why it's a comfort to them. Okay, so all you have to do to figure out, okay, is write down. Let's say it's you come in before you have your packet of crisps. You can still have it and you can still have your beer. Before you do it, open your journal and write down why. I am having this because I sat down from work. Okay, I had a stressful day, and I want to relax. I feel like I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm a little bit sad because my wife didn't give me a kiss when I came in the door. Blah blah blah. Like whatever it is, whatever the emotion is, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's because I'm lonely. And you're like, well, what could I do instead of being lonely? Maybe I could call fucking John down the road. And then, all of a sudden you have this way more meaningful way of dealing with this painful process, or this painful sort of feeling. And it works a lot better than the food or the alcohol or whatever it is. Like you need again, like to someone who drinks alcohol, every night compulsively, do you get me? You tell them to stop. Like they laugh, or they're like the cynicism that you get from it is like, here, like, what are you talking about? Do you know, I'd never do that. Do you get me? Because they don't understand like what they're missing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Or maybe they do understand it and they haven't tried any alternatives that give that meaningful response. So like if the answer is loneliness, like you do need a meaningful conversation or a meaningful connection with someone else. If the answer is boredom, well then maybe you need to actually find something creative to do. Like maybe you need to start painting, maybe you need to start drawing, maybe you need to go out for a walk or something. If it's loneliness and boredom are two main ones, but if it's sadness or if it's an emotion that you need to talk to someone about, talking to a friend helps a lot. If you don't have a friend to talk to, which is really sad if you don't, a journal will help. So if it is an emotional pain, clearly articulating how you feel and why you feel it will have the same sort of relieving effect, or the same level of like sort of like a weight lifted off your chest after you talk to someone. It will have the exact same effect if you write it out as clearly as you possibly can.
It's great advice.
There you go. Hopefully that was clear. I felt like I was rambling a little bit.
And so again, let's say now that I've done my food journal. Mm-hmm. I've sat down. I've figured out that it's actually boredom.
Okay.
And so it's boredom, and so no, I'm bored. No, so I drink my pints and have my crisps or whatever like that, and I wake up the next day. I'm like, that was shit. Not that it was shit. I actually enjoyed it at the time. But now that it's over, I actually regret it. And so now that I regret it, what do I do this evening?
So now you're aware of what it is. What do you want to do if you're bored?
So I want to drink beer and eat crisps.
Yeah, okay, that's one option. But I'm sure, like, you're a human, you're a multifaceted thing. Like, you have lots of other things that you like to do. Maybe it's work in your car. Maybe it's read a book. Maybe it's watch a TV show instead without the alcohol. Maybe replace the alcohol with a non-alcoholic beer, because maybe it's just the fact that you want to crack open a can and just sit there because that's like a symbol of success for you.
No, it's not. It's not. I like the feeling.
You like the feeling of being drunk?
I like the feeling of drunk. I just love it.
Well, then maybe it's not boredom. Do you get me? Maybe you just want to drink.
Ooh, and he goes a layer deeper, guys. So let's say that's a good point. So let's say it is just that I just like, what did you say?
What do you mean?
Maybe I just like being drunk.
Yeah, maybe you just want to drink. But there's there's a reason why you want to be drunk. Like there's always a reason why you want to be drunk. There's like, it's either to have fun,
yeah, okay,
and to let loose, or to not deal with emotions. Yeah. Or to like maybe try and enjoy a movie a little bit better or something like that there, and that's it. Or maybe like most of the times it's probably someone just like they want to enjoy a movie a little bit more, and that's about it. And I think if that's the thing that you want to do, like try it without it and see what happens. Experiment with it a couple of times, and what you'll notice is that you'll feel a little bit better the next day. I'm saying that like there's nothing wrong with having a beer and watching a movie, but there's something wrong with having a beer and watching a movie and not being able to stop. And if that is the case and you can't stop, like seek professional help. Go look for someone who actually specializes with stuff like that. I actually think it's important that we emphasize that like dealing with someone who is, let's say, like an addict or an alcoholic or something like that is outside of our scope of practice. So like that would be where we, like, if it is to the point where they're actually an alcoholic and they can't stop doing something like that there and it is ruining their life, it's like, we're health and fitness coaches. We're not therapists. We're not like alcohol experts or anything like that there. So when it gets at that extreme, that would be our job to refer it and be like, we need to get you some actual proper help.
And I think with that as well, like now that I kind of like think about it, like Jamie, if somebody came to me and like they needed health and fitness advice, like Jamie, like I don't know who else that they should go to. Like they should come to me. Like I have the inside scoop, and I feel like exactly like you said, it's like if there's an expert in alcoholism, it's like they have the inside scoop. Like they've seen this inside out and backwards. The same like people like psychologists who deal with people specifically eating disorders and all this kind of stuff. Like they have the inside scoop. They have that little bit of information, and there is definitely people who can help, who are experts. Like for talk's sake, like if you want to improve your movement capacity, I'm your guy. If you want to help structure your meals and come up with a plan and find more protein dense foods and maybe get a little bit deeper as to who you are and what you want, is like we do an excellent job at that. But like I said, it's exactly that. It's like there is some things that are just going to be outside your scope. Like for talk's sake, if you go to your doctor, and many people do, about health and fitness, it's like realistically, it's not their area of expertise.
Exactly. Or what they'll do is they'll go to their big book of stuff. They'll open it. They'll look for what you have, open the book, and be like, oh, there's the thing that I have to do. Like doctors have a lot to learn. Like they have a lot
100%.
So like it's they actually have a lot of work to do, and they have a lot of different. There's a lot that can go wrong with the body, and they have to know all about it.
Or chances are, like if it's a good doctor, it's like I suppose doctors or like anybody else, they'd do the opposite. They'd refer you to us,
or to a specialist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the next thing I was going to say as well is that like if you're compulsively, so let's say we'll take it away from alcohol, okay, and let's say you're compulsively like snacking on crisps and jellies and all this sort of stuff in the evening, okay, you can replace that stuff with better food. Like you don't have to fix it straight away. Like you can put your head in this little continuum where like one is like you're just going to keep eating, you're going to ignore all of it. In fact, you're going to get more sweets, okay. That's level 1, okay? So that's the worst sort of mentality. You're sitting at like, let's say 5 right now, okay? And then 10 is like you've completely changed everything around. But if completely changing everything around sounds really unappealing to you right now and you don't want to do it, it's like, what would 6 look like? Instead of being a 5, what would 6 look like? Okay, maybe I won't get the jellies this time. And instead of getting a can of Coke, I'll get Coke Zero. Or instead of getting Coke Zero, I'll have a bottle of water. And then you can still have it, and then you've made a better decision. You're like, okay, I can do this for a week, and then I'm doing slightly better. Like, because a lot of people ruin progress by expecting themselves to switch everything perfectly and to switch straight away. And if they don't do that, they're a failure in their own eyes. It's like, just make a slightly better decision. It's much more sustainable than drastically changing everything all at once.
You give great advice, Chris.
Thanks.
Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, I get it nearly every one-on-one that we have.
Good.
Not me and you, but
Yes. Yeah, no, like I said, yeah, or like you said, I should say, it's like, good, better, best. It's like, what would be good is if you just sat down and enjoyed yourself. What would be better if you sat down and enjoyed yourself in a healthier fashion. What would be best is if you sat down and enjoyed yourself in the healthiest fashion possible. Yeah. And so,
what would be best if you didn't sit down at all.
There you go, exactly. If you did some yoga and ate some kale, that'd be great.
Yeah. So what else did I want to get on there? No, I don't. The restrict binge cycle is a really important one as well that people need to sort of address. If you're in that restrict binge cycle, okay, or if you do have disordered eating and you see something like the keto diet or intermittent fasting or low carb or whatever it is, it's like just be very fucking careful about jumping in on one of those trends, because I know I did it. I know Stephen did it, Brandon did it. You know, the fasting, the OMAD and all that sort of stuff. There are supposedly benefits to it. But what I found is that when I ended up doing stuff like that there, I ended up teaching myself to overeat for one meal, and then I'd sort of like my stomach got wider, and it would just improve or it would increase my appetite for all the other meals as well, even when I wasn't. Does that make sense?
Right. Right. This is now into my own personal experience, and
Okay.
I feel now like I feel re-educated now in the whole situation, because I literally was a massive intermittent fasting proponent, and the reason being is because it got me great results. And here's my 2 cents on it. Is it got me great results because, as I said, like I'm going through an evolution from, you know, someone who had very, very disordered eating. Like I literally, when I was younger, wouldn't eat a vegetable and would literally only eat beans and toast. Like that was my life: sausages, beans, and toast. That's what I ate, and plenty of butter. And you know, like I was trained, and maybe like noodles. Like you're literally talking like, you know, crap food, like crap simple food, but my goodness, it was tasty. And so basically where I came to in my level of discipline in life was that it literally took all my focus, and I thought I was fantastic if I got one meal right a day. And so when I was doing intermittent fasting, I could get results only eating one meal a day, and I would get that one meal right. And really what that was, it was to make up for my lack of organization and structure, because I couldn't be organized enough to have a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, and snacks. So
Yeah.
what my solution was okay, I'll do it once a day. And I was beasting, and I was getting great results for the first time in my life, and I absolutely loved it. And then what happened was exactly what you said, a very, very similar to anorexia, where they see themselves as skinny, or they see themselves as fat, but actually they're very, very skinny. And for me, I was looking at my plate, and the plate looked very, very small, but it was actually a regular sized plate. So I actually, you know, gave myself you know, a mental obstacle to overcome, because I was literally like my portions were now a fraction of what they used to be, and what they used to be to me was starting to become normal. And obviously, I didn't want to
And
keep.
When you do that, you'd eat until you were stuffed, and you'd ignore the satiety signal.
Yeah.
You'd ignore that. Like you'd gorge until like you're stuffed to the gills, and after you go.
But like again, which I find is absolutely fine if I was to sustain those portions and sustain that one meal a day. The problem was that I wasn't going to sustain that, because, you know, I had stuff like to do during the day, or to be a party, and I'd want to, you know, come back into the regular eating pattern.
So this, when I go back to this, like eating behaviors that interfere with and harm proper physical, psychological, and interpersonal functioning.
And it was, for me, the main one, I thought I was fine, and I would have been fine if it wasn't for the interpersonal thing. Like I wanted a food social life. You know, I didn't want to be the one just eating at a certain time. But I genuinely do feel like, you know, if you want to eat once a day, and you find that that's going to be your long-term approach, which, as I said, it's like it's one in a million, I'd say. Like I mean, it's a very rare person is going to eat once a day consistently forever, because the point of this is to organize your actual routine. And so what happens is, if you come away from OMAD, or you come away from intermittent fasting, it's like, well, have you now got a structure and a plan in place to come back to? And I didn't. And I found that when I came away from OMAD, that's when my new journey began of, okay, I need a breakfast, I need a lunch, I need a dinner, and I need snacks, and I need them to fit my plan. And so basically I took my one meal and divided it across the days.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. But the next thing I was going to say on that was, like intermittent fasting is actually a level 2 strategy. So like because we've done the precision nutrition course, when we're dealing with clients, we'll divide them up into level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is basically, you know, like your average Joe, you know, they want to get lean or they want to lose weight. So most 90% of people are level 1, and myself and you, I'm sure you felt the same sort of impulse. We wanted to go right from level 1 to level 2 straight away, and then maybe start dabbling with level 3. Level 3 is your high performance athlete, your bodybuilder, your basically anyone who is like literally has to be rigid and they're getting paid for it. Like if they're a fitness model or something like that there, that's level 3, where you are weighing stuff down to the gram. Do you get me? And you're not even looking at water if it's the wrong time of day. Like silly stuff like that there. Like that, where, you know, you have to limit carb intake and your carb cycling and intermittent fast and all this mad stuff that normal people don't actually have to do to get the results that they want. So intermittent fasting is a level 2. It's a level 2 strategy for someone who has maybe got into like let's say the 15 to 20% body fat range, so they've hit a bit of a plateau, and so their nutrition is on point. There's nowhere else to sort of make much improvements. They're eating minimally processed whole foods, so they're restricting their calories just a little bit, but they're finding out they're getting hungry. It's like if we intermittent fast, we can make sure that like we can mitigate that hunger, and we can reduce the calories a little bit more. And that's all it is. It's a strategy for that, and it's in no way a long-term strategy. And that's what it emphasizes in the Precision Nutrition course. It's not a long-term strategy. The long-term strategy is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, I'm not going to say that that's dogma and that has to be true for everyone. Again, everyone's life is different. But for 90% of people, that's what works. And if you don't try that first, well, then you're missing out, because it's actually like, it's really nice to wake up and have a nice meal. It's really nice to have a good lunch that you actually look forward to. It's nice to have cooking skills, so that when you go to make something to eat, you're like, oh, this is lovely. So when you show your friend, you're like, you didn't make that, did you? And you're like, yeah, I did. I'm bloody Gordon Ramsay. Do you get me? Like Brandon does that to me all the time. He's like, oh, I got this new little bloody slicer yoke that slices all the things up like really fine. And I was blown away by it, and I'd never heard about it before, but now because he got it, like I got one. It's like silly stuff like that.
Just FYI, Gordon Ramsay would not use one of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gordon Ramsay would have the sharpest knives and develop his knife skills. So I cheated. Yeah,
but in saying that, like there are kitchen skills. So a lot of people might not know. Like I know I didn't. Like you might not know that there's kitchen skills, and you have to learn different kitchen skills to get better at nutrition. There's a load of people who are in Fighting Fit who have way better kitchen skills than we do, because like they like being in the kitchen and all that stuff. And you don't have to get unbelievable at it to get good results, but it is worth looking into, especially if you have no cooking skills whatsoever. So if you're eating, let's say, stuff out of packets all the time, so pre-made this, pre-made that, you're leaving your nutrition sort of up to chance in the hands of whoever made that food product. If you make it yourself with minimally processed whole foods, you're in complete control. You can add this, you can add that, and you can make it whatever way you like. And that seems like it's a lot of effort, but if you put the time into it, it's actually like a bit of fun. And every time you do it and you make something nice, you're like, oh, Jay, it's fair play to me. I really love that.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, we are going to have to wrap it up, unfortunately. All right, we are out of time. So guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you found it helpful. Again, there's plenty in there for you to, take on board and hopefully get a little bit more organized and structured with your nutrition. And that way you can live a happier, healthier, more energy filled, more, you'd be full of vitality. And so that's really, the goal of this plan. And so that way you can start organizing, your fruits, your vegetables, your proteins, your macros, all that kind of stuff into your day, and so that it's a reliable system that you can repeat across time and then get results across time consistently. All right. And guys, if that is something that you want to do, we have a program available, as I'm sure you know by now. And so what you can do is you can get in touch with us via email at fightingfitnation.com. We also have plenty of resources available to you guys. So one is our fitness mindset mastery. And so if you kind of like the philosophy side of things, focus on our mindset, there's a free PDF that you can download, and it'll kind of, again, go through the simple things to kind of help you get a rundown on, what would it take to get yourself into the right headspace to start thinking about this? What are your goals? What is your vision? What do you actually want? And then again, there's also a nutrition guide, which is going to be full of, high protein foods, high nutrient dense foods that are going to keep you fuller for longer and also going to keep you healthy. If you have a lot of fat to lose and you're looking to do it in 6 weeks, we have a Kickstart nutrition plan available. And so that's, it's a high accountability plan. You get some extra coaching. You also get access to all of our classes, and you will also get assigned a transformation coach. You'll either get myself, the lovely Chris here, or FF Sam on Instagram. All right. So you can always check us out, guys, on Instagram. I am the FF Movement Coach. Chris, you are
FF Chris M.
The big dog, Stephen, he is the main page, fighting_fit, and so you can check him out as well. Guys, as always, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.